Good morning, everyone. You may recognize this spot as the spot where I come from time to time, and the spot from which I have done some videos that I've sent to you in the past. And I came here this morning not knowing that I was going to even do this video, but as I sat here for the last 30 minutes and contemplated God's presence, I had a message in my mind that I wanted to deliver to you. And it's this. I read this morning during my morning daily contemplation that this was the feast day of Mary and Martha, and the story that is important to that feast day is that Jesus visited the home of Mary and Martha as he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, and in that time, he talked with both Mary and Martha and heard from each of them about what was going on that day. And the story goes something like this, that Martha was in the kitchen. There wasn't really such thing as a kitchen, but that's in our modern day how we can interpret it, preparing the meal, getting ready for hosting Jesus, doing all of the work that needed to be done to do that, which is what we do on Sundays. We host Jesus. We prepare the table for Jesus. But Martha was doing that, but at the same time, she was, for lack of a better term, bitching about having to do all of the work. How often do we do that? Mary, on the other hand, was at Jesus' feet, listening to Jesus and contemplating Jesus' life and her own life. The suggestion from the reading for the feast of Mary and Martha is that we need both. We need action and we need contemplation. We need to sit at Jesus' feet, but we also need to be Jesus' feet in the world. To me, that is the message of Christ, is that we need to be with Christ, but we don't just need to sit with Christ, we need to act with Christ as Christ acts. And that message was drilled into me again this morning as I contemplated these things very early in the morning, and it's now about 8 o'clock, and I came down here to contemplate on what that meant and sit by the stillness of the lake. And I thought, maybe I should tell you guys about this. Maybe I should let you know about this contemplation, because to me it is the essence of the Christian life. It is both action and contemplation. And we can't have action without community. Jesus calls upon the community to act, which is important for us as a church. But we can't have it without contemplation, because we can't appropriately do our jobs, take our steps, perform our missions, do our ministries, and take action in the world unless we are contemplative enough to know what is the purpose of all of that. So that's where I am today, and that's why I'm here today. And I thought along with that I might also let you know about what I'm contemplating for our Sunday, and the sermon that I intend to give. It's about Isaiah 55 verses 1 through 5, which is our reading, our Old Testament reading on Sunday. And to me, and this is just a personal preference, we all have our own personal preferences, but this passage is my favorite of the entire Bible. And the reason that it is that to me it sums up all of salvation history. It sums up the difficulties and heartaches and problems of the Hebrew people, and how when they were in isolation and in exile, beginning in 597 BC and for the following 60 years, they were a people of no hope. They were oppressed in Babylon, enslaved, taken from their homeland, sent to a distant land about which they knew nothing, and were in basically a vapid and vacuum existence. And during that time, they got closer to God. That was a time in which they had to contemplate. They could not do anything to bring about the action and the healing of God in the world. They could only contemplate. And it was in that contemplation that Isaiah, who was a part of that exile, said, "Everyone who thirsts, come to me. I will feed you." They heard that. They heard that from the prophet. And hearing that from the prophet, they were able to internalize it. They were able to make it give them hope. And when they returned to their homeland a few short years later, they did that. They set about doing it. And that's the message that I think we get from Mary and Martha today, is that we contemplate and we act. We contemplate and we act. There's no prescribed formula for how long contemplation takes. There's no prescribed formula for what it is that is required of us during the action phase. But it's only that there must be a contemplation phase and an action phase. And unless we do that, our life is not complete. We go through life contemplating life's mysteries, life's illnesses, life's brokenness. But it is in those illnesses and brokenness that we learn about action in the world and how we bring about healing, not only to ourselves, but to other people. And as I'm sitting here saying these things and contemplating these things, I'm looking at the lake, and I see a boat out with a skier early this morning, which takes me back to a time in my youth. And I grew up living on a lake where every morning at about this time in the summertime, my mom would be out driving the boat while I went skiing, and she was giving me a space. She was giving me a space to feel exerted and to feel the exuberance of what was going around me in life. And that's what our contemplative time is. As a teenager, I was not aware that skiing on the still waters in the morning, where there was no breeze and there was no waves of the boats, there was no turmoil in that spot, I could contemplate. Yeah, I was busy, I was active, I wanted to keep a hot body for all the girls I was pursuing, but I was contemplating my life. I was contemplating what I was doing, and it led me to a place of comfort. It led me to a place where I could put away all the other things that were going on in my life and say to myself, this is it. This is the spot where I touch God. And back then, I had a different kind of a view of God. I had a different sort of perspective on how God acted in my life. And that changes as we grow older. It changes as life experiences change us. But it is nonetheless a time of contemplation. Action, contemplation, two different things that lead us to a single-minded purpose to follow whatever it is that God's call is for us in our lives. And so I'm sorry for going on longer than maybe I should have. I just came here today with some thoughts on my mind, and coming here at any time, always puts those thoughts in a new perspective for me. And if I have that new perspective and I don't write it down or record it, I forget it. So I thought I would just record this today so I wouldn't forget it. And then I thought, well, I'll record it and then I will send it to you. For whatever meaning it gives you in your life, it gives you in the place where you are today. For whatever meaning it can give you going forward with your own ministries, and even going forward in your own personal lives and the difficulties that you may be dealing with in your own personal life. It's all a matter of looking to this spot, the open arms of Christ, begging you, seeking for you to come to Him, to stand at His feet, to learn from Him, to ask of Him, what is called, but what is required of you today? What are the steps that you will take to run to those open arms and be held by them? God bless you all. Good to talk to you. Hope to see you soon.